The film opens with a documentary about a terrifying masked killer known as Leatherface. In the summer of 1973, he attacked 5 young people in Texas, brutally murdering 4 of them with various weapons. The only survivor of the horrific massacre was a young woman named Sally, who later recounted the events to the police. The case quickly became one of the most notorious and unsolved murders. The story then shifts to the present, where a young woman named Lila is buying snacks and a bottle opener at a small shop in Texas. Meanwhile, her sister Melody is waiting outside in their luxury car, when Lila sees a newspaper article about Sally, the sole survivor of Leatherface's massacre. She curiously asks the shopkeeper about her. The owner said Sally later became a police officer who dedicated her life to tracking down Leatherface, seeking revenge. However, she still hasn't found him because no one knows the true face hidden behind that terrifying mask. Melody walked in to tell Lila that they needed to leave. They were on their way to Harlow, a nearly deserted town in Texas, with a popular YouTuber named Dante and his girlfriend, Ruth. Melody and Dante had partnered to buy the town to develop it into a place for people wanting to escape the hustle and bustle of city life. Melody then made some insensitive remarks about the sloppy, provincial appearance of a guy filling up his car nearby. The others quickly pulled her into the car before things escalated. On the way, Lila scrolled through her phone, and everywhere she looked, she saw posts about the wave of protests against school shootings. It turns out she's a survivor of a recent shooting, and the physical and emotional trauma from that incident still haunts Lila. Dante's video introducing the town of Harlow is attracting significant attention, with more and more people wanting to move there. Suddenly, a pickup truck speeds past, spewing smoke as if to provoke them. It seems to be from the guy Melody had angered earlier. The 4 of them reach the town's boundary and are stopped by police for inspection. Recognizing them as investors planning to develop the area, the sheriff warns them to respect the place before allowing them entry. Melody assures them they will, as her grandmother used to live nearby. Upon arrival, the group begins exploring the deserted town and discussing their plans. Melody tries to convince Lila to live with her to help her overcome her trauma, but Lila refuses, unwilling to leave what she once called home. While they were talking, the man from earlier emerged from his garage. Dante had previously contacted a contractor to renovate the buildings in preparation for an upcoming property sale, named Richter. Suddenly, the group noticed a Confederate flag hanging on one of the houses, which made them uneasy. Dante decided to go inside the house to take it down with Melody. This house was an orphanage, and even more surprisingly, people were still living there. An old woman named Ginny was the caretaker. Dante was visibly annoyed, insisting that all the houses in the town had been bought. So why were there still people who hadn't moved out? However, Ginny insisted she had valid documents to prove ownership. Dante didn't listen. Despite Melody's attempts to calm him down, Dante immediately called the police to forcibly remove Ginny. They arrived quickly, and when the old woman resisted, she suffered a heart attack. A large man standing by the stairs, known to be the last orphan from the orphanage, rushed to help his mother as she collapsed. Melody wanted to go with them, but the investors had arrived by bus, so she needed to stay behind to greet them. Therefore, Dante's girlfriend decided to go instead. On the way to the hospital, the old woman weakened before her last breath, leaving a reminder that her orphan son had always been a good child. Ruth, distraught, quickly texted Melody to let her know what had happened. Ginny's death had enraged the man. He broke the arm of the police officer sitting next to him and used the broken bone to repeatedly stab him in the neck. The officer tried to resist and use his gun, but accidentally shot another officer who was driving, and crashed into another vehicle. Meanwhile, in Harlow, the first houses were being sold, and the process was going smoothly. Lila, however, seemed uninterested, wandering around before going inside to talk to Richter. Seeing the gun on the table reminded her of the horrific incident from the past. Melody still felt guilty about Ginny's situation, unsure if the house had been foreclosed on by the bank and resold to Dante. Melody found her phone and read Ruth's message. She showed it to Dante and then hurried off to find Lila. Mel was upset by Dante's behavior and didn't want to stay there for the time being. She then told her sister about it, and Richter overheard. Back in the field, Ruth gradually regained consciousness after the collision and looked in the rearview mirror. She saw the man fumbling with Ginny's body. It turned out he was peeling off her face and wearing it to confirm that it was the murderer, Leatherface. Ruth trembled as she saw the radio in the police car and used it to call for help. And the store they had visited that morning received the signal. The owner, upon hearing that a murderer was peeling off a face, was also shocked. The police officer next to Ruth, still alive, accidentally made a noise, and Leatherface appeared and killed him. Fortunately, the girl had feigned death to avoid being discovered. However, Ruth didn't survive for long. Just a few minutes later, While trying to climb out the window, the murderer discovered her and brutally slashed her stomach. After dealing with the people there, Leatherface walked back to Harlow and began his massacre to take revenge on those who had disrupted the town's peace. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper, upon receiving Ruth's plea for help, requesting to speak directly with Sally. After 50 years of searching, she felt that this killer was the same person who had murdered her brother and friends. In Harlow, Richter, upon learning of Ginny's story, confiscated all of Melody's car keys, including the bus. He wanted to clarify the matter and would only return the keys once he had proof of Ginny's ownership of the house. Dante insisted he wasn't lying. However, when he opened the file, there was nothing there. Dante said he might have left it at the office. He and Melody decided to go into the orphanage to see if Ginny had the certificate she claimed. After a while, they found out she hadn't lied, proving that the bank's dealings were still unclear. Melody felt guilty for indirectly causing Ginny's heart attack. Just then, there was a loud thud on the floor. It was Leatherface. He had returned to the house, saw Dante, and attacked him. Dante was slashed across the face and collapsed to the floor. Melody went downstairs and witnessed this horrific scene, luckily escaping before the killer could find her. She went back up to Ginny's room and hid in the closet. Leatherface entered afterward, expressing his grief over his mother's death. He noticed the investors outside having a party, laughing and chatting happily. In rage, Leatherface left. That's when the sky suddenly turned dark and it started raining heavily. Everyone rushed into the bus to take shelter, so they didn't see Melody trying to signal from the window. Leatherface went back to the room, so she crawled under the bed to hide. He went to get a sledgehammer to break down the wall, then pulled out a chainsaw, preparing for a bloody massacre. Dante, still alive, struggled out of the house and walked towards the bus. Richter, noticing his strange behavior, followed to inquire and was horrified by Dante's terrible wounds. Catherine, the bank employee, also got off the bus looking for Melody and Dante. Arriving just in time, Dante tried to warn them about the killer near Ginny's house before taking his last breath. Richter told Catherine to quickly return to the bus and lock the door while he proceeded to investigate the house. He slowly made his way upstairs and was ambushed by Leatherface. A fight ensued, and of course, with superior strength, the killer gained the upper hand despite Richter's fierce resistance. He was pushed into a piece of glass that pierced his neck and he collapsed to the floor. Melody, still under the bed, was terrified when she saw Richter. Knowing he couldn't escape, he took out the car keys and returned them to Melody. Just then, the killer struck him on the head with a hammer. Meanwhile, Sally arrived at the scene of the car accident in the field. Seeing Ginny's body, she was certain the culprit was Leatherface. Sally immediately drove to Harlow to exact revenge for 50 years. Melody waited for Leatherface to leave before sneaking out. Unexpectedly, he appeared at the bottom of the stairs and knocked her to the floor. Melody tried to crawl to escape while Leatherface pursued her with a chainsaw. Lila, worried about her sister, had gotten out of the car earlier and managed to save Melody. They both ran back to the bus, gave the keys to the driver, and urged him to drive away. The investors were still enjoying themselves in the bus, unaware that the killer was right beside them, cutting the tires with a chainsaw. The driver got out to check the bus, too late to heed Catherine's advice. Just seconds later, his head was flung away. Leatherface got back into the bus and began his bloody rampage. The investors, still gleeful and believing it was a publicity stunt by Dante's group, took out their phones to livestream the killer's relentless swinging of the chainsaw. While online viewers criticized the scene as artificial, one by one, people were murdered, and Melody and her sister ran into the restroom and locked themselves inside. Coincidentally, there was a sunroof above, allowing them to escape the bus. Leatherface nearly caught Melody, but she cleverly used a bottle opener to stab him in the hand. Seeing Sally's car approaching, they were overjoyed, thinking they were about to be rescued. They got into the back of the car unaware that Sally intended to use them to lure Leatherface out. They were locked inside while Sally, armed with a gun, went to find the killer. After a while, Sally found him, but she was quickly disappointed because he didn't remember who she was. Leatherface ignored Sally and went to find the two sisters. He broke the glass, trying to cut off Lila's leg. Luckily, Sally went over and shot the killer in the shoulder, causing him to temporarily flee. Sally gave the sisters the car keys so they could escape while she hunted Leatherface. Leatherface suddenly jumped out of the shadows with a chainsaw. The two struggled until Sally managed to point the saw at the killer's head, but she ran out of ammunition. He impaled her with the chainsaw, lifted her high, and threw her aside. Melody started Sally's car, causing him to throw the chainsaw forward, resulting in the car losing control and crashing into Richter's garage. Unfortunately, Melody was trapped and couldn't escape. As the killer approached, she persuaded her sister to leave her behind to save herself. Although reluctant, Lila knew this was the only way. When Leatherface arrived, Melody apologized for indirectly causing Ginny's death and awaited execution. Just then, Lila returned with Richter's gun. However, she didn't know how to use it, so Leatherface chased after her. Outside, Lila was caught. He raised his chainsaw, preparing to strike, but was hit by a bullet. Sally once again saved the two sisters. The killer ran into a nearby old movie theater, and Sally advised Lila to chase after him, to confront and overcome this horror. Otherwise it would haunt her forever. Lila followed Sally's advice, took her gun, and went inside. Leatherface once again ambushed Lila, pushing her into a pool to drown her. Miraculously, she escaped the pool after a few minutes. However, the killer was still there. In the nick of time, Melody escaped from the car and ran to save her sister. She held off the killer while Lila overcame her fear of the school shooting. Lila picked up her gun and fired at him. Despite being hit by several bullets, she felt it was no use against Leatherface. Melody then grabbed his chainsaw and delivered a knockout blow, sending him into the water. The two sisters breathed a sigh of relief that everything was over. It was almost dawn, and they got into their car, switched on autopilot, and drove home. Unexpectedly, the killer, still alive, dragged Melody outside and beheaded her while Lila watched helplessly. Lila's fate remains unknown, while Leatherface performs his signature dance before the movie ends. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.